But nine impilo, bro. Never give up.
I never give up until I see this.
I get paid, papa. Don't stop, Pogilo.
Now you're not paid.
Watch. No means in impilo, ayo pick up the pieces. No me katilele zigi show pick up the pieces. No me kaya get shoni way yo pick up the pieces. Yo impilo le inkosi kon pick up the pieces. No means
molweni emakhaya wendaweni ehleli kuzo kuthabile igama ngonxa zonke fani bambiza uprofessor bambiza ngoprofessori apha ndiniphathele uhlelo lethu ogama lithi impumelelo ngoku ndizokwazisa iindwendwe zethu ngapha ekuqaleni sinalantokazi inhle egama linguzi kodwa ke uzozixela ngokwakhe kabanzi uba unguzi ongubani phakathi kwethu ke siphethe ubhuti lo size ngaye apha uMasiya after uziye zazisile kabanzi siyake ngokozosinika kabanzi kungubani usukaphi udlulephi yonke loo nto leyo sicela ubathathe sisonke
molweni nonke gama kusisikhona kodwa abanye ke bandibiza ngozi abantazibona bandibiza inkalankala yes ntombi yasemambodweni ebizana and thank you Professor for inviting me to the show.
Igama siyabonga molweni siyabonga ukuba part of this change and part of this revolution. Usiyabonga uNtombela insizwe ebuyele eMgungundlovu eMaritzburg. I think more and more will be revealed as we journey on this conversation. Let me leave it for later.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Cacile sithi sixhosa induku isemgqobeni afuna ukuyitya yonke kwalapha ekuqaleni kanti kusekuqaleni ifikile masiya silapha nje sirhalela usixelele sirhabulise ngoba phaa esikolweni okanye kusukela emva ekhaya mani ndingayiqali kude mandiyiqale ekhaya emva ubukhula nabani usemncinci wafunda phi yabona mandingakhokheli nje usirhabulise ngokukhula kwakho usemncinci ekhaya esikolweni wathi wafika njani na university.
No, I think they're pretty much interesting. We are trying to revisit the past years because that's where it all began, really. Usiyabonga is born and bred in Mgungundlovu, eMaritzburg. From primary school, I'll just start from there. Ngifunde eDambuza. Most people would know that the old stigma that nothing good come from Eka, but we are really the product of that area. A high school, Itindel Technical High School. Ngikule ekhaya nama siblings wami because I don't know whether it was fortunate or unfortunate that our parents passed on at a very young age. We were very, very young at that time. It dates back to 2004 and 2007 where we lost both our parents. So we were left with our siblings, 4 of us, and I'm the last born, by the way. At that time, I think 2007, my sister was 17. So our upbringing really, it was just the 4 of us. It was just the 4 of us, our sister being the head of the family. And then and then another brother of mine, and then me being the last born. So a family of 4, 3 brothers and a sister. So it's been an interesting journey. So after high school, soon after high school, I then joined UKZN.
Sorry to interrupt. I would like to ask this question on behalf of the people that are watching us from home. There's something that you mentioned there, Bana, your older sister in the family when your parents passed on when 17 years of age. Kukhona la nto ke ngoku irhalela ukwazi irhalela ukuva kabanzi intobana wena ngela xesha buneminyaka emingaphi.
I think 2007 I was doing grade 7. I think I was 11, if not 10 at that time, 11, 12, between those ages. So my sister was 17 and I was in grade 7. 12, 11 years old, I can't remember precisely. But yeah, I think I was in grade 7 at that time, so you can do the mathematics. Yeah, you can do the math.
Alright, Sia. Well, regarding your background education, tell us about isikolo sakho, the schools you went to, talk about the infrastructure, tell us about the availability of information ibinjani, and noto i-contribute kanjani empilweni yakho higher education xa sokusiya e-university. How was it for you?
Okay. No, I think as we all know, we've lived in the era of our resources getting. I think when we were kids, our resources were only channeled to the elite. So those who come from humble beginnings like us, we were never exposed to resources. So understanding our background as a family, as a society, as a community, so that would actually paint an even brighter picture to say those who are underprivileged will go to a government school. So the reality of a government school is that there's not much resources available. So my primary school days, we were just making ends meet. Yeah. It wasn't peaches and roses. If you had a textbook, it was enough to keep you going. So we existed in that era where this digital age wasn't part of our existence at that time. So the resources, to be specific, were not the greatest. In high school, well, it was a bit better because I went to a technical school. At least you could understand. You would say, okay, if they talk about an electrical appliance, a kettle, at least you can visualize, you can see it. But as in chemistry in particular, when you talk of atoms, you can only imagine what an atom is, because the lack of resources they made it impossible for us to know those things. So we're just imagining, we rely mostly on our imagination. So when I got to university, that transition, I won't lie, there was a huge gap between high school and university. So it was stepping into another dimension, to another zone, to a point where I still remember well that when I had to unlock a computer, a lab, I couldn't even understand when they say Control Shift Delete, because I just could not understand the keyboard, because it was my first time seeing the keyboard. Really, we could only imagine how a keyboard looked like. So that transition was not an easy one, because you come from a background of to now playing with real stuff in the real world, where you have got to deal with a computer, something that you've never seen. It's funny because we are the millennials. We live in this generation of that is knowledge-based, computer-based, internet-based, but the reality out there is that it doesn't exist. It's only a concept in people's minds, but it doesn't exist out there for kids like me, thousands of kids like me, who can only imagine these things, but they've never really been exposed to. So it's the reality of our community, our black community, to be precise, because when we speak of these things, we must not leave out the issue of race. We must not shy away from the issue of race, because it's us, black people, who are still suffering from this background living, even though the world has moved so much, has accelerated so much, but we are still far behind as black people, as black society in particular. So it was a really difficult transition, a transition that you do not want to remember in the history of time.
Okay, Masi, with transition, I like that. Not that I like the difficulty in it. I like the fact that it had to challenge us to think about situations, about adaptation, about being flexible. Uthe usuka elokishini, usuka kula technical school, usuka kula makhaya with a sister or for sure besekhulile but ebengusisomncinci anyway. Bengangomzali, she was forced to be a parent by circumstances. Ukufika kwakho e-university ngokwazi kwethu ixesha elininzi abantu abakhule kwezi ndawo othetha ngazo baye bangazi noba e-university kufikwa njani. Umuntu ekapable epasa esikolweni yabo omnye angazi because of the information that we were referring to when we were saying there's a lack of information due to the different eras that we're living in, of which I'm not saying is that the thing, is that the reason. So uthi umbuzo ke ngokozana ufike njani, waze njani bangoku ndingakwazi university? Did anyone from your school or from your village or from ekhaya awakuxelela besikolweni kufuneka imarks ezingaka to get into universities, imarks ezingaka to get into college level?
Yeah.
What was the story?
I think for me, I will just wait a moment so that it will make sense. The story will make sense. I was fortunate that back next hour it was a car, back next band, back next song, and I happened to join that church because I will take you to Satananja and Figile band. So as you know that we were well, they referred to us as orphans. Back then, it's a concept, it's the terminology that I refrain from using. So that church adopted us as a family to say they were going to look after us. And whenever we needed something, we would go to them. Because remember, when our parents passed away, we were all at school. So Sonke Besfund, all four of us Besfund. So Ukbega Port West was bit of a mission. It was a bit of a mission. So the church adopted us as kids, so they took care of us to a certain degree, and we are very much grateful to them for that. So men joined Alebandla, the pastor of the church who passed to Pearson Tool, well, he's a doctor now, Dr. Pearson Tool, was an academic, so he was actually forever so that's how I got exposed to this, the importance of education. So that ideology, yes, that's the perfect word. So he was forever emphasizing the importance of education until lento izizalwa kumina. Yes, the importance of education. So it was actually easy because grade 12, grade 11, grade 12, he would sit us down as the youth and break it down, the requirements, give us those CAO forms. I think they were called CAO back in the day. So we best exposed us to that kind of information because he was coming from the background of teaching and learning. So every now and then we would have sessions as the youth where we would break it down when you pick a career path that would suit you. So that was the time where you would do amateurs. I can't remember this thing that we used to do. That would actually give you a broader sphere of amateur careers that you would pursue. That would be suitable for when. So that part, that aspect of my life, the church life, and the aspect of the supportive educators from high school side. In other words, they were very much supportive because I think they saw a potential in me that I did not see. So they were forever pushing me to be the best version of myself. And they were also they were playing that pivotal role to say, look, if you want to be an engineer, you've got to get A's and B's. So how do you get there? They were actually pushing us in that direction. So I think the contribution from the church, the contribution from the school actually gave me a head start.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a unique story of a young kid who was taken care by the church. Yes, I also don't like to call that name unless I'm playing with my boys. It's deep. Ngoku siya fikile university. Khawusikhaphulise kufika kwakho university ufike wenza ntoni? bekunjani, ufund it, what were the challenges, and then what were the opportunities, what were the things that you felt yandikhulisa le nto yokuba lapha. Sicela usithele Qaba.
Yeah, tell us about how you managed to get into varsity.
I think for a man of my background, you say if ungafundi ngizoba yini. So there's been a quote or a pattern of words that's been playing in my mind. It's a choice, not the circumstances that determine one's success. So one had to make a choice. One had to decide whether you were happy with ukuvuka ngombhaqanga tolale ngawo. And I said to myself, no, look, I'm not happy with this life. So I knew something has got to give. Something has had to change. So we had to change our routine, our practice, and our behavior to say, Dr. if ungazenzeli wena, nobody win. Well, my peers were fortunate because maybe their parents were still around to look after them. But me, I had to make a choice to say, look, Dr. Ma will say, awuzenzeli wena. Ayekho zokwenza usisi wakho, she's working but she's earning below average just to buy bread and milk to pass the day. So come and take look, I had to work. I had to work extra hard. I was the first person escaping and the last person out. So that typical 6 to 6. That typical 6 to 6 shift yabantu abasebenza u 6 to 6 hours. I was a 6 to 6 learner. Yep. And begin a study group after 6 and I had to walk from school to home for an hour. Yep. So if I left school at 6, I would get home at 7. Ngishintshe impahla yesikole ngihambe ngiye study group. Ngiyofundisa abantu. That's why I was teaching abantu abasekhasi namatherasekhasi ekade eka-matric nami. So it was a study group that was productive. I think 3 or 4 of them, 3 of them are doctors and 1 is a lawyer out of that study group.
Team of champions.
So we had to change things. So matric, I got good results. They were good. They were not so bad.
Don't have to say perfect.
Well, we managed to get over 6 distinctions. So it wasn't so bad. And we were very much fortunate that those results opened a few doors because I got 3 bursaries from Matric. I got 3 bursaries, so I had to choose which one I was going to go with. I had a bursary from Department of Public Works. I had a bursary from Cooperative Governance and International Affairs. I had a bursary from Alan Gray, Office Foundation. So I had to decline Alan Gray because we were Funange, Cape Town, and I wasn't ready then to leave home. I think I was 17 when I finished matric, so I was still a young boy. I said, no man, it's not worth it. So I declined 1, so I was left with 2. So I chose Department of Public Works because I was doing engineering. I'm an electrical engineer by profession, a specialist in my field. So I chose Department of Public Works because they pitched the idea that I was interested in. But here is the catch now. Before I could actually get into university, there needed to be that accepting offers and paying residential fees, paying the registration fees. And the partner at that time said, no, but the year hasn't officially started. So which means my bursary was not effective.
Yep. So
I had to try and get him my reaching. And I still remember receiving SMS to info. On Friday is the last day. It was a Wednesday. So on Friday is the last day. If you don't accept the offer, you will forfeit it. And at that time, I said, also sometimes I don't have, I think it was 3,500 at that time, UK, is there any rest, and then some 3,000 for registration. But in total, it was well over 7,000, and that 500 to accept the offer. I said, goodness me, I have a bursary, I have good results, but I can't accept the offer. I do not have the money. So I said, no man, something has got to give. And I went knocking on people's doors. and nobody answered, unfortunately. I don't know whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, but nobody answered. I even went to the most respected icons, Ekaslam, but nobody answered. So to me, it said, when you are in deep trouble, everyone seems to shy away. But maybe it was good that they did that because it channeled us in the right direction. So eventually, I called the Colin Sami High School. I called my principal. I said, "Daughter, they'll accept the offer." And then he gave me, Imali accepts the offer, he gave me a registration fee.
Champion.
So those two were sorted. I needed now Imali accommodation. Luckily, I remembered Tisha, who used to assist me for my extra classes after school. And then he just rang me. He said I must pull through, give the work. And I was shocked, man, figure I was near the 4,000. What's some register?
You are allowed to be the Kamala.
Mr. Cole, may his soul rest in peace. He died when I was doing my second year. So Mr. Cole gave me a registration fee, and then just like that, I didn't expect me to pay it back. So that was the journey between starting my first day at university and finishing with good results. So that wilderness in between is unbearable. It's unbearable. So yes, that's how it rolled out.
So inspirational, yeah. This is so inspirational and emotional at the same time. Now tell us, when you got to the big city, you said you were in Durban and Pugundo was fine, you know. Also figure after Durban, how did you manage to live your life in the big city, the challenges you came across, how did you go about it? Tell us.
Adjustment.
It was a bittersweet transition, because I still remember I couldn't cook. I couldn't cook because basically they get time for every day. But when you got to rest, you begin to realize, man, no, you can't live when you think pen. You've got to try and cook. So it was difficult because I knew no other than family. So to move away from home, Yoshada, RS, it was a change of scenery for me. And now it was a call for one to be responsible, for one to grow. Because I was always under the wing of my family. So every time Gens in the wrong, they would correct me. So in the big city now you're on your own. You're allowed to get drunk Monday to Sunday if you choose to. So I said, Chance, I remembered the vision, because the vision to me brought clarity. The vision to me brought discipline. And luckily I was a soccer player, so the way I managed the misery of the day was through soccer. So I would struggle during the day, struggle to make the ends meet. And in the afternoon I used to go ball, and that's where I found family. That's where me and Prof met, really, through the beautiful game. So I think for me transition was not a smooth one. It wasn't smooth. I won't lie, because there was a time where my uncle Patladam and with Yahamba, I'm done. And about the feeling of getting 5% on your first mathematics test, 5%, you say, goodness me, because you just cannot distinguish. That's how low I was. I packed my bag and said, I'm going home. But when I got home, that seeming shield, the hunger, the misery, the squalor, I said, no, but it's better to be there, to fight my demons there than to be here at home, because there's nothing I can change, really. The squalor will be the order of the day if I don't go back there and work. So, useswami mayibuya, uyangihlele phezu kombhede ngibeke izikhwama. Hey, ngifeyilile ngibuyela lapha.
So humble.
Sekambili. Sekhaya man, khathele ngifeyilile. So this part of me said, no man, let me just give it up. It's not, engineering is not for me. I mean, many have fallen before me, so I'm not the first. So I will just form part of the statistics about Hulen. And also, so I'm one about God. When we were born, I didn't get a chance to go as far as you. So it's up to you really to make a decision about your life. If you want to live like me, on the basis of hand to mouth, you are welcome, you can stay home. So those words were ringing in my mind. to say we cannot live on the basis of hand to mouth every day. We've got to change. The paradigm has got to shift. The paradigm had to shift. So I made a choice. I made a choice to go back and face my demons. I had to go back. I had to go back. I had to pull. So because my intuition says each choice gives you the upper hand. You control the resultant. That has been my analogy in life, that when you have a choice and that decision, you have the control of the resultant. So it's whatever you choose, but the resultant, you control it. It's up to you what you choose, but you have control over the outcome. So I said, okay, if I want the outcome that is glamorous, that is filled with money,
Full of life
and happiness, I've got to make this choice now. The sacrifice, the momentary sacrifice was worth it. So yeah, I went back to school. I was passing with your 50%. Your 60s, your 60s. Yeah, it was crazy, but we were crossing the bridge. We were crossing the bridge because we were driven by the desire and the thirst to change our background.
Yeah.
So yes, in a nutshell, that's how things unfolded in my early days of university.
Okay.
Yeah, well said. Andiqondi ubukhona umuntu ongayivanga kakuhle le ndoda. This guy has been through a lot. This guy has won a lot. This guy is a champion. He's a young champion. Ndiyabona uba zininzi izinto beyanosixelela zona bekuthiwa ixesha besinalo kwelithi cala. Due to time asizuba nalo ixesha loba simnike atyatyadula siphiwe yonke into anayo. Izinto asixelela zona ziyakhulisa nama ndizuyitsala Masiya ya nam ndingomnye wabantu abakwi-witnessile grounding around the field, even not a grounding or whenever we are siyafana nabasegrounding because we talk life in football or life in sport. That smile was always there. It was not easy to pick out from there ubana hayi lo mntu lo uxakekile njengoba usitsho.
Yeah.
Ngoku ukufika kwakho apha kwasele qabaqaba ngoba nexesha liyasibetha. So ufikile ke ngoku right esikolweni nazo za challenges zokupasa you've overcame. Now you're pushing, you're getting these 50s from one step to the other, from one grade to the other. Yiphi into ngathi ngaphandle kwemiceli imingeni challenges wanazo. Zeziphi into ozibonileyo ba that can change, that can make you a better person. Xa ufike university that you thought hey uba bendingezanga apha besingandincedisa.
I think the wisdom of the past never lies. When I read a book a while ago, the writer once said, reading of all good books is like having a conversation with the finest man of past centuries. So I had to converse. I've had a conversation with your Einstein through reading books. It's crazy that you can have a conversation with someone who lived 100 years before you, but you converse with them through writing and through reading of good books. So one of the things that really I gained at Oxford University is surround yourself with the people who share a common goal with you.
Oh yeah.
Because that saying is still prevalent. Show me your friends, I will show you the future.
Yeah.
And then show me your friends, I will tell you who you are.
Yeah.
So one way or the other we may try to deny it, but we are the products of who we hang around with. So I think the people, the group of people, the positive-minded people, the self-driven, the self-starters that I surrounded myself with, they actually propelled me to be the man I am today. So I don't think if I never went to UK then I would have met the good people, the young leaders, the great thinkers, the thinkers of our time. And I think the change of scenery, because I believe that if you wanna have the upper hand, travel. If you have the money, travel. If you don't have the money, just change the scenery, use the atmosphere when you're down. That exposure and just to understand the way other people think, it makes you a better person. So for me, because election, we can't deny the fact that election is defined by gangsterism. Get to Juliana every weekend, it's on job. So how do you now thrive in that kind of environment? So I had to separate myself and move to a different location, a different scenery, and stick around with academics, people who have a vision like me. So I think UK then, I'll just state it, gave me that platform to meet young, motivated young people from all walks of life, so that when you share your story with them and they share their stories with you, you gain that sort of inspiration, that sort of motivation. So surrounding the people you hang around with really play a pivotal role in your life.
Again, my team.
Wake up in the morning, then I do it again. I swear.